In this video, I'll show you how to tune vocals with Auto-Tune Pro. So like the previous video where I loaded up Melodyne as the first plugin on the channel, you're going to want to do the same with Auto-Tune Pro. So I've got it placed before all of my EQ and compression plugins. So Auto-Tune Pro gives you two modes that you can work in. There's Auto mode, and then there's Graph mode. Auto mode is nice if you want to quickly tune your vocals, but you don't want to have to go through and do any manual tuning like I did with Melodyne in the previous video, but it's not going to be as accurate as doing it manually. Graph mode allows you to go through and manually tune the vocals, much like I did in the previous video. So first, I'll show you auto mode. It's fairly simple. So first, you can choose your voice type. I would describe her as more of like an alto or mezzo-soprano. And then you can choose your key. So this song's in the key of D minor. So I'll choose D as my tonic, and I'll choose minor as the scale. And then there's four main controls. Retune speed, which sets the rate at which the audio is moved to the target pitch. You have flex tune down here. What this does is it allows for more or less pitch deviation. And this is particularly good for preserving things like vibrato and intentional pitch drift in the notes. The Humanize knob allows you to add realism to sustained notes at higher retune speeds. So this can help to make long sustained notes not sound flat and robotic. And then Natural Vibrato allows you to minimize or accentuate the natural vibrato in the voice. So let's give this a shot.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around into...
So when you have the retune speed really quick, you can hear that it immediately tries to tune the notes. I'm going to pull this down to something more natural, and I'm also going to pull up the flex tune.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over.
I'm also going to pull up Humanize here to help some of those longer notes.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one more day. Don't ever tell me why. Don't you ever tell me why. 'Cause I don't want to know.
So you can use this with some soft settings like this just to get a gentle vocal tuning effect. But if I want more control over her vocal tuning, I'm going to have to use graph mode. So with graphical correction, you first have to print the audio from Pro Tools into the Auto-Tune plugin and then manually edit it from there. So you can do this for pitch, or you can do it for pitch and time. So if you're just going to be doing pitch correction, you can select pitch. But if you're going to be doing pitch and timing corrections like me, you'll want to select pitch and time. And then I'll just press play to print in the audio.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one more day. Don't ever tell me why. Don't you ever tell me why. 'Cause I don't want to know.
So using the zoom controls down here, I've zoomed in on just the first phrase here, and you can see the waveform, but on top of the waveform, this red line is the pitch analysis for the recording. So this red line is implying that these first two notes are centered around G3. So her pitch sort of drifts around, and when I tune the vocal, I'm going to better center all of these pitches on their intended notes. And there's actually two ways to do this in Auto-Tune. The first is you can make notes out of this analysis. So to do this, you just go up to Make Notes, and then choose Make Notes. And what this does is it interprets notes from the pitch analysis. After you make notes, you can adjust the sensitivity of those notes right here. So if I pull this up, you'll see it broken up into more notes. If I pull this down, you'll see it broken up into less notes. So I'll keep it around 50 where it was before. And what you'll notice is that these notes have been automatically snapped to the graph. So you can see these notes on G3, they've automatically been tuned. So the red line is showing you the original analysis, and the green line is showing you the tuned pitches. Now, this is all based on the input type, the key, and the scale that you selected earlier. So let's give this a listen.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell...
So obviously there's still some issues here. We need to go in and do some more manual tuning. The first thing I'm going to do is bump up the number of notes, because it looks like some of these spots that need notes are not getting notes. Using the main pointer tool here, you can click and select an object, and you can move it up and down, and you'll see that it snaps to the key that you set earlier. If you want to move it around freely, you can hold Shift. You can also select objects and delete them. Now, when you delete an object, you're not deleting the note itself, you're just deleting the pitch correction on that note. So if there's any spots that you want to leave alone and that you don't want to apply pitch correction to, you can delete those.
Now that you're sober.
So this note right here, it's put it all the way up on B flat. It should be down on A. So I'll just grab this and pull it down to A.
Now that you're sober.
There we go. So it's on the correct note now. This note doesn't need to be here, so I'll just click and delete that.
Now that you're sober.
It still sounds a bit robotic, and that's because the retune speed is probably set too high. So I'm going to hit Command A to select all of the notes, and I'm going to pull down the retune speed quite a bit.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me.
So obviously there's some weird notes here in the analysis that don't need to be here, so I'll get rid of these. Sometimes when you have a singer that scoops up to a note or drifts down to a note, those notes can sound kind of weird when you tune them. So often I'll delete these and let them be, and then just tune the longer portion of the note.
Turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one.
So there's some weirdness going on here. If you need to separate a note like this, you can just use the scissors tool here, separate it, and you can either retune that note or you can delete it.
Give one more day.
So here's a spot where the tuning comes in too early. So you can actually trim up the front and back end of the notes. So everything from here to here is going to remain untuned, but everything starting at this note will be tuned.
Give one more day. Don't.
Here you have an example of a note that was split up into multiple notes because of the vibrato. So this is supposed to be on D. So what I'll do is delete these other notes here, trim out the first one, and I'll just pull the pitch of this down to D.
Give one more day. Don't.
You can use this tool to adjust a single point in time within a selection or within a region. So once you select this tool, you drag over the area that you want to affect the timing on, and then you can click and drag left and right to adjust the timing. So I felt like this first phrase is a little behind, so maybe I'll push it forward a bit there, and I'll push it a bit more forward here as well.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me.
So maybe this phrase seems a bit behind. I'll grab the front end of this note and pull it forward a bit. Let's give that a listen.
I don't want to know.
So off screen, I tuned everything up and made some timing corrections. One last thing I like to adjust is the vibrato on everything. So I selected all the notes. You can pull this up to make more out of the natural vibrato in the voice, or you can pull it down to minimize that. So I'm going to minimize it just a little bit.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one more day. Don't ever tell me why. Don't you ever tell me why. 'Cause I don't want to know.
So if you're still having trouble working with the note analysis, I often find that drawing in line segments with the line segment tool can be really helpful. With this, you can draw in the intended pitch of the vocal melody, and the tuning analysis will gravitate toward the line segments that you draw in. So you just click to start a new line segment, and then click again when you need to break the line segment and move on to another note. When you need to end a line segment, just press Escape. After drawing in a line segment, you can adjust the retune speed on the segment as well as the vibrato, just like you could when working with notes.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one more day. Don't ever tell me why. Don't.
If you need to adjust the tuning on a segment, you can use the pointer tool to adjust a selection or just an individual segment and adjust the tuning up or down.
Now that you're sober, don't tell me that it's over. Don't turn this ship around and tell me that you can't give one more day. Don't ever tell me why.
So that's the basics of vocal tuning in AutoTune Pro. I find that AutoTune and Melodyne have two different distinct sounds, and I find that they have different purposes. I find myself using Melodyne more for rock and acoustic music, and then I find AutoTune more suited for pop and electronic music.